Let's talk to God. One more thing, like, subscribe, and share. Come on, let's talk to God. Woo!
Hey, good evening, everybody. It's Cutler here in the Let's Talk to Cutler broadcast, the Let's Talk to Cutler virtual book club, the Let's Talk to Cutler vlog, and all of those good things. It's already Thursday. We're moving toward the end of the week. It is the 26th of May, and the month is moving on. The week is moving on, and so are we. I wanted to this evening to talk about a topic that's a little heavy, but I thought in my conscious. I wanted to just pause for a moment because this channel, for people who are just stopping by for the very first time, it's about inspiration. It is about motivation, but it is also about challenging ourselves to show up better. I always say we can show up better tomorrow than we did today. It doesn't mean that today was a failure. It doesn't mean that today was a flop. It means that today offers us a few things, a few nuggets that we can take so that we can position ourselves to be a little bit better tomorrow than we were today. Because one of the things that we ascribe to on this group, on this channel, is that we believe in better. We believe that we're going to a space and a place that's called better, and we don't want to get there by ourselves. And sometimes becoming better means that we have to stop and address some of the difficult conversations. We have to have some of the difficult conversations and talk about the things that just sort of rub us and get under our skin. And we have to address them because we're not in a vacuum. We're not isolated, but we have to see what can we talk about that's truly going to make us better individuals, better as a society, better as a people. And so I want to talk this evening about the Uvalde murder victims. And you may ask, Cutler, well, your channel is always so upbeat. Well, it's still upbeat. It's just that it's coming this evening in the form of a challenge. Not only, though, is it coming in the form of a challenge, but I think that one of the ways that we can be better is to make sure that we educate ourselves. So I want to talk about challenging us to be better, but also making sure that we educate ourselves about some of the things that we hear, some of the things that we know, some of the things that we hear and don't know. But before I get into that, I want you all to do me a favor. Invite people. If you have been talking about the massacre in Uvalde, Texas, at the Robb Elementary School, if you've been talking about it, if you've had some opinions, some strong opinions, I definitely want to hear your opinions as we engage in this conversation. And as you all know, one of the things that I do here is respect everybody's opinion. One of the things that I enjoy about us is that we respect everybody's opinion. So I definitely want to hear what you have to say. I want to know how you feel as well. So this is going to be, let me hear what you feel. Let me hear what you think. That's the kind of conversation. I don't know that we'll finish this. We typically are done in 1,800 seconds, but I just have to put out a disclaimer this evening. I don't know if we're going to finish our conversation this evening within the 1,800 seconds. So if we don't, we'll just keep on going. Not tonight, but in another episode. But again, Cutler, why are you talking about that? Because if your channel is about inspiration and motivation and all of that, it is about challenging us so that we can know what we know, challenging us so that we can feel what we feel, challenging us so that we can be better, not just in our individual lives, but as members of society. And as I always do, I do want to invite you, if this is your first time, I do want to invite you to subscribe and ask you to click on the notification bell because it lets you know when I've gone live and that sort of thing, whatever I've uploaded of content. But I also want to shout out the LTTC VIPs as I typically do. There's Tracy Johnson who says, hey, everyone, let's go. Let's get ready to ride. All right. Tracy's good to see you, my friend. Andy Cutler says, get aboard, let's ride. And MV says, hello, everyone. Well, I hope you all have buckled up for the ride because I want us to get started. I'm sure most of us by now have heard about the massacre, have heard about the murder, have heard about the shooting of the victims, the 19 children and the 2 adults there in Uvalde, Texas at the Robb Elementary School. So when we consider all that's happening, we have the Robb Elementary School, we have mass shootings, there are issues about gun control, issues about these students who are massacred, issues about how do we protect our children, how do we preserve our rights, issues about innocent blood being spilled, issues even in recent issues, Blacks murdered while shopping in Buffalo, New York, Asians murdered while shopping in Southern California, and now 19 children shot while going to school, along with 2 teachers. So it seems like, and y'all let me know how you feel. I want you to chime in. It seems like, it looks like, it feels like you can't go shopping, you can't worship, you can't go to school. Meanwhile, our elected officials are politicizing these issues and making it about the Democrats versus the Republicans when they are stuck in what is called a political filibuster, and they can't even get to the real issues at hand. They cannot even get to the real issues at hand. So we're going to talk about it. And why are we discussing this? Why am I discussing this? Because I care. I'm discussing this, I'm bringing this to your attention, and I want to know how you all feel, because I believe that our attention span in this country is way too short. We are so quick to get back to business. We're seeing a constant increase in mass shootings and killings in this country. According to NPR, in 2019, there were 417 mass shootings. Go up to 2020, 611. Go up to 2021, 693. And we still get back to business. We're seeing heart-stopping increases in school shootings. Education Week, this magazine, this publication said in 2020, there were 10 shootings. 2021, 34 shootings. And now here in 2022, and we're not even halfway in the year, we've already seen 27 shootings. But our attention span in this country is such that we see it, we don't see it, and we get back to business. The question, and they seem so rhetorical, where does it stop? What do we do? And I will probably have to throw my hat in the ring with so many of us when it comes to where does it stop and what do we do? And I have to say this to you all. I don't have the perfect answer. But what I do know is this: doing nothing is not the answer. Doing nothing is not the answer. And I'll have to tell you all this. Many of you have been with me for a while. You all know I had to bring this box of tissue with me. I couldn't address it. I couldn't even talk about it when we were here together Tuesday because, one, I didn't have all the facts. One, I was overly emotional, and I still am. But I've had time to sort of think about it. And again, I don't have all the answers, but I know that doing nothing is not the answer. I know that the Senate going on Memorial Day recess is not the answer. Going on a Memorial Day recess instead of taking this procedural vote so that you can put this enhanced background check act so that you can put it on the legislative calendar, that is not the answer. I know that allowing bills to expire that have helped decrease mass shootings by 37%, that's not the answer. I know allowing bills to expire and then watching mass shootings go up by 183%, that is not the answer. I'll pull all the details out and share this with you. I know that introducing legislation that lingers for almost 10 years, that's not the answer. And I know that extending condolences, taking these moments of silence, and going on with life as if those lives that were taken really didn't mean anything, I know that's not the answer. So let's try to unpack this, you all. Let's have a conversation so that Cutler's not here spilling his guts and pouring out his tears, but let's unpack this. But before I begin to unpack it, I have to say this. My heart goes out to the families and the loved ones of everyone affected by the senseless massacre of those 19 children, 19 beautiful children, and those 2 wonderful adults at Robb Elementary School. So let's ask ourselves as we try to unpack this, and you all help me out. Why the bipartisan arguments and the bottlenecks? Lots of issues. This was the worst attack on an American school since Sandy Hook in Connecticut back in 2012. 20 children, 6 adults at Sandy Hook. And I can't even look. I've tried 3 times today to look at the faces of those young people and these teachers. And then I learned today that the husband of one of the teachers died, and his family says that they believe it was probably from a broken heart. So what are the issues that we could really unpack? What are the issues? We could possibly talk about the racial disparity and how the perpetrator is handled. Because there are patterns of disparity, but that's not my issue this evening. So if you're wondering if I'm going to go that angle, that's not my issue this evening. This perpetrator was shot and killed, and I get it. There are some white perpetrators who are taken into custody without incident, but and there seems to be this pattern of disparity. But that's not my issue this evening. Even though I must confess, we are still 2 years out from the anniversary of the murder of George Floyd. But that's not my issue. Mental health. The whole issue of mental health has come up, and maybe next week I'll invite a judge from Texas who actually has a mental health docket. But mental health is not my issue, because from my perspective, mental health could possibly, and you all let me know what you think, because mental health in my mind could possibly be a diversion, in that I don't necessarily think mental health is the main issue in terms of gun control, in terms of massacres. I don't necessarily know that mental health is the main issue. Do I think it is an issue? Absolutely. But do I think it is the main issue that can be addressed in a short term? No. Because I recently heard someone say this. They said, hate is hate, racism is racism, and hate is not a mental illness. Because what I know is that when you bring mental illness into the picture, you impact and you influence the perpetrator's ability to frame a legal defense. So I'll be careful, so very careful about bringing in mental health or mental illness as an issue, because it gives coverage to the perpetrator. That's just my perspective. I'd love to know what you all think about the place and the role of mental illness in the whole argument. But what I want to talk about more this evening is, why is it so difficult to pass legislation? Why is it so difficult to pass legislation when we have all of these murders, when we have the shooting in Buffalo, New York, when we have the shooting in Southern California, when we have the shooting Sandy Hook, when we have Uvalde, when we have all of these things? Why is it so difficult to pass legislation? And even if you cannot agree, Congress, on the particular legislation, there is so many areas of compromise. If you don't like the universal background checks, you could do, if you don't want universal background checks, I'm going to throw this word out, maybe you all have heard. What about red flag laws? I'll talk about all this. But when we have a Senate, one of the houses that's doing nothing, the inaction, that does not work, because we haven't had Effective gun control. Y'all catch this. We have not had an effective gun control law since 2003. And that was when the Brady Bill expired. Some of y'all are probably like, Cutler, the Brady Bill, what in the world is the Brady Bill? But many of you, like me, probably remember Brady. Brady, who was injured, he was shot. At the time, John Brady was shot and he was wounded during an attempted assassination of, at the time, President Ronald Reagan. And what happened was that President Clinton came into office and he signed the Brady Bill with support, obviously, from former President Reagan. And the Brady Bill required background check. It required background check that would require 5 days waiting period for unlicensed individuals. It also, I'm glad some of y'all remember this. Thank you. I'm so glad that some of y'all remember this. But the Brady Bill, it also banned assault weapons and high capacity magazines. Magazines is a clip that has the weapons in it, that has the firing ammunition in it. And the Brady Bill banned assault weapons. It banned high capacity magazines. It was a sensible gun safety law. So we do know that sensible gun safety laws work. Do they solve everything? No. But do they help? Yes. Do they help? Yes. And even if you cannot agree, this is why I want to talk about the fact that there's so much inaction among our elected officials. Because there was a senator, one of the senators, Senator Manchin from West Virginia. He introduced this bill. He said, all right, if we can't agree on this global background check, this universal background check, Senator Manchin from West Virginia said, well, let me introduce this bill, this compromise bill. And what this compromise bill would do, it would impose background checks on commercial sales, but it would allow family members to sell to family members and friends. Introduced that in 2013. 2013, almost 10 years ago, he introduced that legislation, and what happened to it? It failed. It failed. And we have not had gun control legislation since then. We haven't had it since then. And so now what is going on? I have to see what you all are saying, because I know I know some of you all are just as emotional, and it's just you're just as convicted by this as I am. Let's see what you all are saying, because when we do the replay, I want people to see this. I want them to know these things. K Sharp says, my heart aches for the families in Uvalde. The local school district has sent resources to help our neighbors. Wow. Let's see. J Song for you. You can't buy alcohol until you're 21. You can't rent a car until you're 25, but you can buy a gun at 18. Something is wrong. J Song for you. Thank you. Something is wrong with that. And even and not only do they get to buy a gun at 18, but they're unlicensed, and there is no waiting period. There are no checks, no waiting period, nothing. So you turn 18 and you go buy an assault weapon. Something is wrong with that picture. Something is very wrong. Let's see what else you all are saying. It's also very upsetting. The police waited an hour to go in. So many families shattered. Tracy, you're absolutely right. And one of the things that some people have been saying is that this is a predominantly Hispanic community. And they wonder if there was some kind of, what is going on? But of course, then you have to look at the police force and see the police force also includes Hispanics. But it gets then to proper police procedures. It also gets to communication, and it also gets to the truth. When you have something like this that takes place, people want to know the truth. Where I come from, we would say, come on, let's quit the shucking and jive and let's tell the truth, because now we've lost lives. And don't add insult to injury by not telling a truth. One of the fathers, of a fourth grader said, he told the police, if you won't go in, give me your weapon and give me your vest, I'll go in. He said he watched them break the windows because so then he knew that the active shooter was alive and was in there for an hour because they were breaking windows to get the children out. And so the question is, do we need to revisit police procedures when it comes to something like this? It is sad. And of course, then we had the husband who died. Let's see. Paula D says mental illness is a deflection. It is a real problem. Mental illness, Paula D, thank you. It is a deflection from the real problem. Gun control laws. That's what we need. And again, and Paula, I definitely agree with you. It is a deflection. And I'm not saying that mental illness is not an issue, because we all know that it is an issue. But it is a deflection from the major problem, from the problem that can be handled on the Hill at this point. And when we consider what's going on, he shot his grandmother. So we know we're dealing with an individual who has some pattern of, or some, not necessarily a historical pattern, but that day we can trace his path and we see, yeah, he was off. Something is going on here. But with the politicizing and all of those that we think, and you hate to think that as capitalistic as we are in this country, is everything about the almighty dollar. I'm looking at this next comment, can't wait to put it up, because the NRA and the money they give to the Republicans. Let's just call it for what it is. So we have the Republicans that have created this filibuster. I'll talk about it in just a moment. You all give me a chance to put up some of these comments. Yes, thank you, K Sharp. Mental illness may have played a part in the case. It was also the sense of entitlement, that the nerve to kill babies is sick. Don't take me there and make me grab this tissue. There's something wrong. There's something wrong. So many guns are sold. I love your comment. There's so many guns sold underground. They're also making ghost guns with 3D. Yes. Sadly, politicians are taking, they take money over the bloodshed of children. K-Sharp, that's what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I'm talking about. We see all of this and we become insensitive to it. We become numb to it. We look the other way and it's back to business. And I wonder, does the blood that's oozing from the ground mean anything to anybody? Does it mean anything to those people who were elected to serve the people, take care of the people, and watch over the people? And so now the blood is spilling and pouring from the ground. Does it really mean anything? As hard as they fight to prevent abortion in the name of saving lives of the unborn, the same strength of effort should be used to save the lives of those who are already here. Hypocrites. Jay Song for you, you're not alone. Senator Warnock from Georgia. He's also a pastor of the historic Ebenezer Church there in Atlanta. He went on record as saying, I can only hope that all of my colleagues who are pro-life will realize that this is a life issue. If they are so pro-life, let them be pro-life and enact legislation that will stop this madness, that will stop these massacres, that will stop this foolishness. All right, so red flag laws. You all giving me a whole lot to work with, and I definitely want to get to it. But let me tell you, let me explain a little bit about what the red flag laws are. Red flag laws, it's just that it will raise a red flag. Red flag legislation would allow family members and law enforcement to obtain these extreme risk protection orders so that they can temporarily remove access to firearms from those people who are deemed to be a danger to themselves and others. So it's that red flag legislation. It is the law that allows family members, it allows law enforcement to get what is called this extreme risk protection order. So that way they are able to then remove access to firearms. People who are deemed to be a danger to themselves, a danger to society, family members will say, here's a red flag. I'm raising the red flag because my family member is a danger to himself and a danger to others. Or law enforcement officers get to obtain these extreme risk protection orders so that they can remove access from these dangerous weapons. So then that way people see a red flag because they know the people with whom they live. And they say, that person should not, that person is a danger to himself. That person is a danger to society. So those are measures that would allow people to raise a red flag and say, nope, got to get this out. So before the issue gets worse, before the matter gets out of control, it's like raising a red flag. So we got a problem here. We got a potential problem. It's a red flag. I love the name because the name is so telling. The name is so telling. So what else is going on? What can we do? What is happening? HR 8, HR and the number 8. It's also known as the Bipartisan Background Check Act of 2021. This particular bill would establish new background check requirements for firearm transfer between private parties, unlicensed individuals. What it does, you all, it prohibits the transfer of firearms between private parties unless a licensed gun dealer first takes possession of the firearm and conducts a background check. It does not allow, it would prohibit transferring firearms between parties unless you have a licensed gun dealer or a manufacturer who would take possession of that firearm until a background check is done. And it does not apply to certain firearm transfers, like a gift between spouses and good. Not that, but just when people go in to buy, it pumps the brakes for just a moment. That's the Bipartisan Background Checks Act of 2021. It's also known as HR 8. And guess what, you all? It is still stuck in the Senate because of a filibuster. Stuck in the Senate because of a filibuster. A filibuster, what is it called? A filibuster is a political procedure. It is a maneuver. It is a tactic that is used to block a vote on a piece of legislation. So you have this political filibuster that's going on, and it requires 60 votes to end. And guess what? Guess what? The Senate is planning on taking Memorial Day recess and vacation rather than voting on this procedural maneuver so that they can get this legislation on the congressional calendar, on the legislative calendar. So when I say doing nothing, inaction, lack of passion from these elected officials, we can't have this. We just cannot have this. I made a note. I was listening to Senator Chris Murphy. He's a Democrat from Connecticut. And here's what he said, y'all, and it pricked my heart. He says, our kids are living in fear every single time they set their feet in a classroom because they think they're going to be next. That pricks my heart. And in such a passionate display, he said to the public, why, not to just the public, but to his colleagues there in the Senate, he said to them, why do you spend all this time running for U.S. Senate Why did you spend all this time doing that, all this time campaigning, making these promises? If your answer to the slaughter, as the slaughter increases, why do you spend all that time running for office? If your answer as the slaughter increases, and as our kids run for their lives, if your answer is do nothing, why? Gun laws. Let's see. Let me see what else you all are saying. Because I am emotional about this. I have not had the privilege of teaching on the elementary school level. I have, as many of you know, been a college professor, university professor for a number of years. And I will never forget the first time I lost one of my students to violence. And you're handling the lives, the precious lives of young people. The lives that will never get a chance to flourish. Lives that will never get a chance to prove what they could have contributed to the society. So I challenge us. I challenge us to challenge the politicians. I challenge us to think about when we go, to the polls. I challenge us on all of those things. I challenge us to be knowledgeable. I challenge us to be aware. I challenge us to know the world in which we live. I challenge us to know what's going on around us. I challenge us to recognize the hurt and the pain, the social injustices. I challenge us to sometimes pierce the smoke screen and see what's happening. Let me see what some of you are saying. Gun laws are needed. Proper school security is needed. And that is one of the things that I heard earlier today, MV, that this perpetrator was able to just get into school without any confrontation, without being stopped. Just go in. One child in the classroom told a mom that she put the blood of her friend. I just saw that on CNN. She put the blood of her friend on her and pretended to be dead in order to survive. I'm with you. I can't imagine the trauma that she will endure. Jay Song, for you, you said political prostitutes being pimped out by the NRA. Such an accurate categorization of what's going on. Juanita, let's see. Look at how many of our elected officials are getting cash from the major corporations, be it the NRA or Big Pharma. They no longer represent us. We have to consider those things. We have to consider all of that. So I know if you were looking for my regular upbeat, I was so emotional today and fighting back tears even now. These are somebody's children. And how dare the politicians look the other way? Think about what happened January 6th last year. They were able to be corralled into a room and to get away. They were able to have armed security watching over them. These children didn't get that chance. So how dare you? How dare you engage in politicizing blood that's poured on the ground of innocent lives? How dare you? So I just wanted us to be aware. I want us to be aware. And again, I want to continue this conversation because I'm so curious to see what some of the folk that I know who are in the legal system, maybe even child psychologists. I want to know what they're thinking. Because I shared with a friend today, I cannot imagine, and I have young people in my life, I cannot imagine one of them saying to me, I'm scared to go to school. I'm scared to go to school because I might get shot. And guess what, you all? These mass killings, at this rate, they're not taking place anywhere else. This is specific to our country. They're specific to our country. And when one of our senators was asked about it, why does this happen only in the US? His arrogant response was, why do so many people like you come to the US? We have work to do. We have work to do. I settled myself for this evening. I settled myself for this evening by doing what I do. So I'm going to share it with you. I decided that I would write out my emotions. And we'll end this evening's conversation. K Sharp, you're right. These children were our future. They were our future. And I want to continue this conversation. I want to hear from you and want to know if there is any perspective of this conversation that you would like for me to present in our next dialogue. Let me know. Send me an email, talktocutler@gmail.com, talk2cutler@gmail.com. I'd like to know if there's any perspective that you would like for me to address specifically as it pertains to this issue, as it pertains to this problem. I definitely want to hear from you. But again, I want to share with you how I settled myself for today. I decided to write a poem that's called The Decimation of Hope. And this is how we'll close. And as we close, I do want you all to continue to build community and maintain connectivity. Keep your heads up and your hopes up. Stay safe and stay sane. Keep your hopes up, because there's an attempt to decimate hope. So this poem is called The Decimation of Hope. How does hope, when decimated, sound? What does she plea while dying on the ground? You keep silencing me, yet demanding me to speak. Overlooking me, but pretending to seek the true essence of what I could bring if you would only sing a different melody. You keep pushing me into a shallow grave, snatching me out and commanding me to behave as if you did not just attack me from the front of me and the back of me. You keep looking through me and doing what you do to me, depleting me, but never renewing me. You keep thinking what you think about me, pretending you believe even as you doubt me. No matter what you've heard about me, still you seek to live without me. You would give anything to eliminate me. You've already spent a lifetime trying to decimate me. But all you've really done is elevate me. Truth be told, you don't intimidate me. You just hate me. The Decimation of Hope. You all, please know that from my heart to yours, there is and always will be so much love. Listen, you all have a fantastic Memorial Day weekend. Stay safe. Whatever you do, please stay safe. And join me right back here. Gather up some people and tell them, come on, let's talk to Cutler. We're going to continue this conversation because I want to hear from you. Make sure you all have a great, safe weekend. All right. Good night, everybody.